You know what our agreement was, Zach?
What?
If you tell me I'm lying to you, which you have the right to as my brother.
You don't got no paperwork, Wack. Stop it.
That's what you think, Zach?
Wack.
Okay, you know what you got to do when I send it to you, right? Here it comes. His daddy been a rat since 2009.
Stop it, Wack. Stop it, Wack. Yo, what?
Okay.
A man known as Mob Boss is suddenly at the center of serious attention, and not because of street talk, but because of paperwork tied to official records. Trell Williams Sr., the father of Pooh Shiesty, had been building a strong reputation in South Memphis for years, seen by many as a respected figure with influence and status. While his son's music painted a picture of someone untouchable, documents that recently surfaced suggest a very different situation behind the scenes. According to those records, Mob Boss was allegedly providing information to federal authorities over a long period of time, including detailed cooperation that may have played a role in legal outcomes. This kind of cooperation can sometimes lead to reduced sentences if prosecutors determine the assistance was significant enough to matter. And this isn't just random chatter online. The claims are tied to paperwork that has now been brought into the spotlight, with Wack 100 stepping in to present what he says are real documents. Whether people support him or question him, one thing is clear. This situation has sparked major conversation. At first, many people thought the story was only about recent legal trouble involving Pooh Shiesty and his father connected to serious accusations involving Gucci Mane. But as more details surfaced, attention quickly shifted to something deeper that may have been going on for years. What's now being discussed goes back much further, with references to a federal case from 2007 and a reported cooperation agreement around 2009. That agreement allegedly included a commitment to provide ongoing assistance, not just a one-time situation. If true, that would mean this wasn't something temporary.
Hear what I just said to you.
Yo, where does Wack go?
Listen,
This nigga said
that's
daddy
a full
been a rat.
file. I'm going to send you.
Yo, Wack, stop it,
No, I'm
bro.
about to send you where he ratted. Listen, the nigga been a rat since '09. I'm sending you all the work. Pooh Shiesty was 8 or 9 years old, so this is his pop, live and direct. Now, listen, you know the exposures, we sit back because I'm a strong representation when it comes to Gucci, that's bro.
But something that may have continued over time. And that's where things really take a turn, because in his music, Pooh Shiesty often spoke about his father as someone who showed him the way and helped guide his path. But now, questions are being raised about whether that same guidance may have also involved cooperation with authorities behind the scenes. That contrast is what's making this situation so intense right now. It's no longer just about a headline or a single case. It's about a bigger picture that people are trying to piece together step by step. To really understand how all of this connects, you have to look at who Trell Williams Sr. was known to be in South Memphis. The name Mob Boss carried serious weight, especially in the late 90s and early 2000s, when he was reportedly running one of the most active nightclubs in the city and building a name that people recognized instantly. Club Martini, if you know, was the kind of spot where everyone showed up. From street figures to athletes, the place stayed active, and it became more than just a nightclub. It was a statement. It looked like Mob Boss was planting his flag and making it clear he had influence in the city. And for a long time, that image held strong, with people fully buying into that reputation. Now fast forward a bit, and the focus shifts to his son, Pooh Shiesty, also known as Trell Williams Jr., the same artist who linked up with Gucci Mane, signed to 1017, and made serious noise with tracks like Back in Blood alongside Lil Durk. That record took off in a major way and helped cement his name in the spotlight. In his music, Pooh Shiesty painted a clear picture of his father as someone who guided him early on. He spoke about him as his first co-defendant, someone who showed him how things worked and helped shape his path. It came across like a strong legacy, the kind of story that people in that world recognize and respect. But here's where things take a sharp turn, because behind that image, there are now claims that suggest a very different situation may have been unfolding.
The feds confirmed that Gucci Mane, Roderick Davis, identified Pooh Shiesty as a man who robbed him. Gucci Mane identified Pooh Shiesty, pointed a gun to his head.
Long before any of those lyrics were ever recorded. By April 2026, everything is already heating up, and then Wack 100 steps in again with even more claims. This time, he's not just focused on the current situation, he's digging into the past, bringing up details that shift the entire conversation. According to what he presented, along with documents he says supported, Trell Williams Sr. may have been cooperating with federal authorities going back as far as 2009. That's not being framed as speculation. It's being pointed to as something written directly in official records connected to a 2007 case that reached a key moment in 2009. Let that sink in for a second. The same mob boss from South Memphis, the same figure tied to the image and rise of Pooh Shiesty, is now at the center of a completely different kind of narrative, one that people are still trying to fully understand as more details continue to come out. The man Pooh Shiesty talked about in his music as his foundation is now being discussed in a completely different light. According to the claims tied to those documents, there may have been a connection with federal prosecutors going back years, even to a time when Pooh was still very young. And here's where things really start to raise eyebrows, because WAC 100 isn't just saying this was a one-time situation that ended and disappeared. The claim is that the agreement Montrell Williams Sr. entered into included specific language describing his assistance as ongoing, with expectations of future cooperation. That phrase, future cooperation, isn't something casual. In legal terms, it suggests a continued relationship where information could still be provided over time. It points to something that may not have been limited to a single moment, but instead stretched across multiple years. Then there's the mention of Guideline 5K 1.1, which plays a big role in federal cases. This is the provision that allows a judge to reduce a sentence below standard limits if prosecutors confirm that someone provided meaningful assistance. In simple terms, that kind of motion usually only comes into play when detailed, verifiable information has been shared that helps advance a case. And according to what's being discussed from those documents, mob boss may have been in a position to benefit from exactly that type of consideration. That's what's making people look at this situation from a whole new angle. Now think back to that earlier incident that people were already talking about, the one where mob boss was reportedly involved in a serious situation, and his sister ended up being affected while he made it out unharmed. That moment alone had people paying attention. But now, with this new context, it's being looked at differently, because timing matters. Who was present, what happened next, and the decisions that followed. All of that is now being re-examined by people trying to connect the dots. And to be clear, situations like that are real and intense. When something serious happens involving family, that's not just a headline, that's personal, and it can influence decisions in ways outsiders might not fully understand. But at the same time, when someone has spent years building a certain image and reputation, especially one that gets reflected in music and public perception, the choices that follow moments like that carry even more weight. And that's exactly why this conversation is getting louder right now. That choice says a lot. It shapes how people see you, and it can completely change the story that's been told for years. Because now, the version coming from paperwork doesn't line up with the image that was built in the streets. And once people started putting the pieces together, everything began to look very different. Think back to Pooh Shiesty's first major legal situation in 2020, the incident in Florida that brought serious attention. Federal authorities stepped in, and suddenly he was facing extremely heavy consequences that could have changed everything. But then came the outcome. A plea deal was reached. One count, 63 months, and he avoided several other charges, including one that carried much heavier penalties. At the time, that result alone had people talking, trying to understand how everything played out the way it did. That's when WAC 100 started speaking up publicly. Back when platforms like Clubhouse were everywhere, he went on there and made strong claims about what he believed was happening behind the scenes. Those claims didn't sit well at all. Pooh Shiesty's lawyer, Bradford Cohen, quickly pushed back, calling those statements false and making it clear that no cooperation of that kind had taken place. He explained the legal details, breaking down the difference between a factual proffer and an actual cooperation agreement. Pooh himself also addressed it, stepping in to deny the claims and clarify his side. And to be fair, multiple people connected to the situation have said the narrative wasn't as simple as it was being presented at the time. But here's where things take a deeper turn. Because looking back now, some believe that what WAC 100 was really doing wasn't about proving one specific claim. It was about pointing towards something that didn't quite add up within the bigger picture. He kept circling back to the same idea, that something about the Williams family's situation didn't match the public image. And now, with these newly discussed documents connected to mob boss, including references to legal provisions like 5K 1.1 and mentions of ongoing cooperation, people are starting to revisit those earlier moments with a completely different perspective. It's like the focus may have been on the wrong person at the time, while the bigger story was sitting somewhere else the whole time. And then there's the music itself. After his release in October 2025, Pooh Shiesty dropped new material, including the track FDO, where he once again referenced his father as a major influence, repeating that same image of guidance and loyalty that fans have heard before. But now, with everything that's being talked about, even those lyrics are being looked at differently, because when new information enters the picture, it can reshape how people interpret everything that came before it. He showed him the lanes. That's what Pooh Shiesty said in his music. He put his father right there in his lyrics as his co-defendant, his day one, his foundation. And now, in a twist nobody expected, they're both officially co-defendants in a federal case, standing side by side in a situation that's way more serious than anything said in a song. Sometimes the music paints a picture that feels larger than life, but sometimes reality hits in a completely different way, and the outcome doesn't match what the lyrics once promised. Now let's slow this down and look at what they're actually facing right now, because this situation is intense even without all the backstory layered on top. January 10th, 2026. 3 individuals connected to the music industry traveled to Dallas, Texas. They were told they were attending a meeting about a recording contract tied to 1017, the label connected to Gucci Mane. On the surface, it sounded like business as usual, but according to federal authorities, the situation quickly escalated into something far more serious. The Department of Justice alleges that Pooh Shiesty and 8 other individuals, including Big 30, were involved in turning that studio session into a high-risk situation. Reports claim that a weapon was displayed, and one of the individuals present was pressured into signing documents related to a contract release under extreme circumstances. Authorities also allege that other individuals at the scene were forced to give up valuables, including watches, jewelry, and cash. One person was reportedly placed in a situation where they struggled to breathe during the incident. Altogether, 9 individuals are now facing serious federal charges, including kidnapping and robbery-related accusations, all of which carry severe legal consequences if proven in court. And in the middle of all this, Trell Williams Sr., also known as Mob Boss, is being described by prosecutors as someone who allegedly played a role in organizing what happened. Now here's where the situation takes another unexpected turn. The individual identified in the federal complaint as RD, widely understood to be Gucci Mane, is reported to have provided information to authorities in this case. That includes identifying individuals involved and giving detailed descriptions of what took place. That detail alone has sparked a wave of reactions online, especially since people started bringing up an old Instagram Live where Gucci Mane spoke about handling situations differently and keeping things off official channels. And just like that, the conversation keeps getting deeper, with every new detail adding another layer that people are trying to make sense of in real time. That's the rule he always talked about living by. And when that old clip resurfaced, the internet went wild. Same video, completely different context, and suddenly people were looking at it in a whole new way. But let's be real for a second. There's a big difference between street situations and what happens in a professional setting. Walking into a studio for what's supposed to be a legit business meeting, and then things take a serious turn. That's not the same as a dispute or tension between people. That's a situation where someone feels put at risk in a place that was supposed to be safe. So the real conversation isn't just about what Gucci Mane did or didn't do. The bigger question, the one WAC 100 keeps pointing toward, is about who in this entire situation may have a longer, more documented history tied to cooperation with authorities. And according to the claims connected to those documents, that spotlight is now being placed on Mob Boss. The internet definitely didn't ignore this, not even for a second. Right before everything unfolded, Pooh Shiesty had posted a video showing off a new luxury Mercedes, captioning it like everything was going exactly how it should. Then, everything flipped fast. Fans rushed into the comments after the news broke. Some were showing support, others were pointing back to lyrics, and a lot of people were just shocked trying to process it all. Because this is someone who already spent over 5 years in federal prison, came home in October 2025, and within just a few months was back in custody facing serious accusations again. And what makes it even more intense is the timing. Reports suggest this all happened while he was still under federal supervision, still in that transition phase back into normal life. At the same time, his father, the same mob boss figure people knew from South Memphis, is now dealing with the same case, while also having a complicated legal history that goes back years before Pooh Shiesty ever stepped into music. When WAC 100's conversation with DJ Academics started spreading online, everything escalated even more. People began breaking down every detail. Some questioned whether the paperwork was real. Others debated what 5K 1.1 actually means. And some even started connecting older incidents to what's being discussed now. social media went into full investigation mode. Meanwhile, Pooh Shiesty's lawyer, Bradford Cohen, stepped back in to defend his client, making it clear they're challenging the narrative and maintaining his innocence. But at the center of all this are those documents people keep talking about. The question isn't about opinions. It's about whether those filings actually contain what's being claimed or not. And when you zoom out, this story goes way beyond just one person. It's about image, legacy, and the stories built over time. Pooh Shiesty created his identity around being real, being tied to South Memphis, and having a father who represented that same energy. Now, with everything coming out, people are starting to question how much of that image matches reality. And that's what's keeping this entire situation trending right now. His music felt real because the background felt real. Mob Boss wasn't just a nickname. It was presented like a legacy, a stamp of authenticity that people believed in. But now, everything is being questioned in a serious way. Because if the claims tied to those documents are true, then the foundation of that story might not be as solid as it once seemed. That's what's hitting people the hardest right now. The same man who was described as showing the way might have been involved in something completely different behind the scenes at the same time. And if that's even partly true, it changes how people look at everything that came before it. And this kind of situation isn't completely new in hip-hop. We've seen stories before where mentors or close figures turned out to be more complex than the public image suggested. We've seen reputations shift when official records come into play. But this one stands out because of how central that father-son connection was to Pooh Shiesty's identity. He didn't just mention his father, he built part of his story around him. That connection was front and center. So now, with all these conversations happening, people are asking deeper questions about what was real and what might have been misunderstood. And that leads to the bigger question. If these claims about Mob Boss go back to when Pooh Shiesty was still young, what does that mean for everything he believed about his own story? Was it all exactly how it was presented? Or is there more to it that's only now coming into the light? To be clear, none of this replaces the legal process. The courts will handle the facts, and everyone involved is entitled to defend themselves and present their side. WAC 100 has made claims before that sparked debate, and these current allegations are still being challenged. But what's undeniable is the conversation this situation has created. It's forcing people to look at how reputations are built, what authenticity really means, and how quickly narratives can shift when new information appears. Right now, both father and son are dealing with serious federal charges, with prosecutors building their case and defense teams pushing back hard. The outcome is still unknown, but the stakes are extremely high, and the attention around this case isn't slowing down anytime soon. And underneath all of it, the questions keep building. About the past, about the documents being discussed, and about what this all means for the bigger picture. So now, it comes down to you. Do you think Pooh Shiesty can separate his own legacy from everything being said about his father? Or does this situation change how people will always see his story? And what does all of this say about how figures are built up in hip-hop culture today? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, share this video, and stay tuned, because this story is still unfolding, and there's a lot more to come.